Okay, I want to praise the mighty name of Yahuwah today. Come to him by his mighty name, the Yahuwah, Yahuwah. Hallelujah in 7 letters. Uh, I pray, Father, that you would guide me and lead me in this message I'm going to make. Hopefully open up the eyes of people to see I know it looks like sometimes we think we're right on things. A lot of times because of the way the King James Version is translated. But what I want to talk about today is the 3 nights and the 3 days that's in the scriptures, where lots of people try to say it's part of a day, out of what 24 hours or whatever, make it into 3 days. You know, if that was right, I would go with it. But using my common logic and my common sense the Almighty Father Yahuwah gave me, then I know what 3 nights and 3 days is. See, if you got 3 nights, you got to have 3 days. If you got 3 days, you got to have 3 nights. And the Bible plainly says the Messiah would be in the tomb for 3 nights and 3 days. Actually, the way it's translated, it says 3 days and 3 nights, but it's actually 3 nights and 3 days. Know that because we know that a day in Yah's kingdom starts at evening. So that's another thing I want to bring to these people's attention. If we know the day starts in the evening, would be at night, that is when the Messiah was put in the tomb at evening. Just that alone right there should get you thinking. So what we want to do is we're going to go to Leviticus. I'm going to put my glasses on. My Father give me understanding. And we're going to go to Leviticus 23 and read from 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We can go from there. First, we're going to read this. We'll start at 5. And in the 14th day of the first moon or month at evening is Yahuwah's Passover. Notice he said the 14th day. It's Yahuwah's Passover. What that's saying is, if that lamb's going to be killed on the 14th, right? I think we all can agree with that. But it says in verse 6, but on the 15th day of that same moon, it's the feast of unleavened bread of Yahuwah. 7 days you must eat unleavened bread. Well, that's telling you also that the unleavened bread, or the bread that the priest would offer up, would be on the 15th at evening. And the feast of unleavened bread would last 7 days. Exactly 7 days. It's very important to understand this and know, which I know most people know, that the feast of unleavened bread lasts 7 days. But if you're going to go with this here part of a day, and a part of a day, then you're not actually believing in a 7-day feast. If you are, then you're stripping the word out of context and out of place. Then verse 8 says, you shall offer an offering made by fire to Yahuwah 7 days. And in the 7th day, you shall have a holy convocation. Now, why did he say, in the 7th day, you shall have a holy convocation? Because that's going to be a Sabbath day. Because the first day, on the 15th, was a Sabbath day. And he said 7 days later would be the end of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, would come the following Sabbath of that week. And then it says, verse 9, and Yahweh has spoken to Moses, saying, speak to the children of Israel, and say unto them, when you come into the land which I give you, you shall reap the harvest thereof. Then you shall bring the sheaf on the first fruit of your harvest unto the priest. Now, what he's telling you there is that the harvest was going to be reaped on the 14th. And that's when he's talking about the Passover up here, when they kept the Passover on the 14th. That on that day is when they brought in all the harvest. That was actually what we would call the preparation day, or it would actually be a work day. So it would have to be a work day. So you can't take the 14th, and it's a hard time to bring the harvest in, and it'd be a work day, and call that part of a Sabbath. They just don't make no sense. But we're going to go through the scriptures. We're going to prove all things. And the thing is, you can either go with it or not go with it. But I would personally wish that we could have a serious debate and a talk about it. Because if you're deceiving people, or you're being deceived, or if I'm being deceived, then we gotta rightly divide the word of truth. We gotta come together, quit squabbling over who's right and who's wrong, and bring the bread of life out and see, and let the truth find its way. And certainly, you got to use a little bit of common sense, what I call horse sense. So now we're going to read. Now I want you to notice, when I read this next verse, first he said in verse 10, he said that on the 14th, that's when the harvest brought in. We agree that the sheaf and the first fruits of your harvest unto the priest. That would be done on the 14th. And you shall weigh the sheaf before Yahweh to be accepted to you on the morrow after the Sabbath. The priest shall weigh it. Now, what I want to do is look at we need to look at verse 5 on the 14th day of that moon, or that month, that evening, is the Yahweh's Passover. Now, in verse 11, what should have been translated here, folks, and we'll prove this going about the scriptures, when it said on the morrow after the Sabbath, actually it was after the killing of the lamb, or would be what we call the Passover. And I got it in my footnote where it says Sabbath here. I got it translated as Passover, because the Sabbath would be drawn on after the 14th. We all know that. I'm sure we should all know that. Now, this is where the problem with the people that's bringing in the 16th is when our Messiah was resurrected. But this is impossible, because we know on verse 12, he shall offer on that day, he weigh the sheaf, the lamb without blemish of the first year, a burnt offering unto Yahweh, a meat offering. Shall mingle it with flour, and burn with, and cook by fire as a sweet savor. Now we know for a fact what this is talking about. It's talking about the Passover lamb. Now, if you believe the Messiah, now when you wave the wave offering, it's not talking about his resurrection anyway. It's talking about him entering into the tomb. See, that's where some people get the Wednesday ideal, that he rose on Wednesday. Of course, using a Gregorian calendar on top of that, when we know it was on the full moon of the 15th. But my point being is, that's where a lot of people get that at. And the thing, here we go. when the sheave of the lamb without blemish was offered, it was offered just the same way it was in Exodus. He don't change, does he? So we're gonna go to Exodus 12, and we're going on a journey. And the only thing I want you to do is to search what I'm saying out, whether it be a lie or it be the truth. Now we're going to go to verse, I believe 12. Here we go. It says, Exodus 12, I believe it's, 12 and 14. And this day shall be unto you a memorial, and you shall keep the feast of Yahuwah throughout your generations, shall keep a feast by an ordinance forever. 7 days shall you eat unleavened bread. Even the first day you shall put away leaven out of your houses, for whoever eateth leavened bread from the first day unto the seventh day, that soul shall be cut off. Now notice what he said, eat unleavened bread for 7 days. So, if you say the 16th is when it was offered up, the lamb was offered up, you have to eat the unleavened bread on the 16th, and you're not eating unleavened, then you will not be eating unleavened bread for 7 days. You'll be only eating it for 6 days. See, it just don't line up. But anyway, and it said, in the first day there shall be a holy convocation. In the seventh day there shall be a holy convocation. You should do no manner of work. You shall observe the feast of unleavened bread in that same self day. Now same self day. See, that's talking about the 14th. It's whenever they offer up the bread at the evening of the 14th. Then before nightfall came in was the 15th on a full moon. That's whenever they offered up the unleavened bread, representing the Messiah before he goes into the tomb on the 15th. It's just common sense, folks. And then we're going to back up. We're going to read the rest of this. It says, I believe we're going down 12. It says, it shall come to pass, this is 12 and 42, and in that night to be much observed unto Yahuwah to bring them out from the land of Egypt. This is that night that Yahuwah said to be observed in all you children of Israel throughout their generation. This is telling you right here that the Passover started at evening of that night. All night long. On a full moon. That's why this is when that happened. And okay, we're going to go to, I believe it's right here, verse 6 of 13 of Exodus says, 7 days shall thou eat unleavened bread, and the seventh day shall be a feast unto Yahuwah. Unleavened bread shall be eaten 7 days. There shall no unleavened bread be seen with thee, neither shall there be leaven seen. See, that bread that the priest brought had to be on the first day at evening on the 15th before the sun went down, right before the sun went down. You know, we kill the lamb and do the memorial, the Passover and everything on the 14th. See, the 14th is not a Sabbath. But the Messiah became our unleavened bread, so therefore he was perfect, a perfect sacrifice without sin. He had to be put in the tomb to rest on the Sabbath day, or he would have broke the commandment to himself. So his body rested on the full moon when he was put into the tomb at night, before the sun went down. And we're going to go through some more scriptures. And let me see. We're going to go to actually we're going to go back to Leviticus. Father Yahweh, give me a stayed hand. Give me a teachable spirit. I can teach these things. With a calm spirit, calm heart. Now, another thing is, now in verse 23 again, we're going to read another place. It says, verse 12 again, we're going to read this. And you shall offer that day when you shall wave the sheaf of the lamb without blemish on the first year of thy burnt offerings. And we know that's the Passover. We know the lamb was offered up on the 14th. And the unleavened bread at the cloak, but representing the Messiah being crucified on the 14th, not a Sabbath day, because that is considered bringing in the harvest. Because you know the Messiah, when he went in, he resurrected all those under the Old Testament, and the 144,000, the 2-year-old males that Herod murdered, being the first fruits of the resurrection. So this is a type and a shadow. When they brought the fruits in on the 14th, the Messiah, when he went into the tomb, I mean, his body went into the tomb, but his spirit was not in the tomb. It went back to the throne room, and he ruled up there. But that's what he did. His body laid there in the tomb and rested, while his spirit the Bible said he told the thief, you'll be with me in paradise this very day. That means after his death. So his spirit went somewhere else while his body lay dormant in that tomb on the Sabbath day. He went to work. He was working. He bringing in the harvest of souls that he brought them into the kingdom of heaven, and they all rested from all their labor, from 6,000 years of offering up bulls and sheep and whatever. They rested on the seventh day, the Sabbath day, on the 15th, while his body was resting in the tomb. They were resting in the kingdom of heaven with Yahuwah, the Father. They were resting with him because the Messiah he became the bridegroom. He was the bridegroom that remarried his bride under the old covenant that he had divorced for breaking his commandments. So he remarried them so he could get sons and daughters in the book of Acts. Saying that, moving forward, that 1,000 years, that one day of rest on earth in that body, well, actually, 3 nights and 3 days is what it was. But he rested on the Sabbath day. Well, the Bible said he'd be in the tomb for 3 nights and 3 days. Now that's why I want to go back to Jonah. I want y'all to notice something. Well, I'm not going to get to that. I'm going to go back to Jonah. I know you all know this verse, but we're going to read it anyway. Jonah. Where you at, Big Joe? Big Joe? Big Joe's hard to find. A little book. Jonah's hiding, just like he hid in the belly of that well. He's hiding. But I'll find him. He's over here somewhere. Where you at, Jonah? Where you at, Big Joe? Solomon. Job. I don't want Job, I want Jonah. Oh boy. Probably. So we get close to it. I guess I'm gonna have to look it up. My Bible's so old I can't flip through my pages like I used to. See, Jonah. There we are. Jonah is 1405. Yeah, I thought it was close to it. Back up to Jonah. Here we go. Pretty small book. And we want to find that verse. And well, you know it's in here somewhere. All right. Come on now. Well, glasses. I'll be glad when I get my new glasses, boy. I tell you what, they got some new glasses come out, folks. You need to check it out. What's the name of that them glasses, Jennifer? Anyway, they got new technology out with glasses that it focuses your eyes automatically by the glasses. I think it's called blue glass or something. It's a new thing to come out with you older people. You might wish you had that. Just thought that'd be throw that in there. That's all right. All right, I can't find what I'm looking for, but I believe I know it's right here. I'm not crazy. But I'll probably just read it since I can't find it. Let's see. Here it is. Said, and Jonah was in the belly of the fish 3 days and 3 nights. Now, I believe personally it was 3 nights and 3 days. I got it translated 3 days and 3 nights, but that's just the way the English translates things because forever, we've always started our days from daylight hours. So, more than likely when they translated it, but we know this from evening to evening, so it had to be 3 nights and 3 days. But I want you to notice it did say, they didn't just say 3 days. They said 3 nights. I can count 3. I know what 3 nights is. Now, you can't call part of a day a night, and another part of a day a night, and another part of a day a night, and then come around and then turn around and say 3 days too. Now, the thing is, in the belly of the whale or the fish shall be 3 nights and 3 days, and it also says, we know the scripture says, as Jonah was in the heart of the earth, not the heart of the earth, forgive me, in the belly of the whale for 3 nights and 3 days, so shall the Son of Man be in the tomb for 3 nights and 3 days. And I'm going to prove this within a reasonable doubt that it was actually 72 hours. I know people want to jump on the Christians and jump on them because they believe in they hold on to 3 nights and 3 days. Well, you know what? They're not wrong in everything, folks. And you can't expect someone to jump on your bandwagon and believe something that's not even provable in Scripture. Now, they may be believing things backwards because they're going by a Gregorian calendar. And even the Seventh-day Adventists, at least they know it's 3 nights and 3 days, even though they got it all backwards. And we're going to go there in a little bit, proving the Seventh-day Adventists is wrong. I would call his name, I believe his name is Matthew Jensen and Arnold Bowen. I call them all out. Even, and he's a dear brother of mine, and I love him with all my heart, Pastor Buddy Johnson. He believed it, that the 16th, on the 16th doctrine, on the 3 parts of a day. And I'll tell you right now, if I'm wrong, Yahoo can strike me down, strike me off this planet, because I don't want to tell a lie. Now, you got to come to that conclusion yourself. If you are you willing to put your faith on the line? Are you willing to say, hey, get on the computer and make a video and say, hey, I put my soul on the line on this doctrine. When I'm putting my soul on the line that he was in that tomb for 3 nights and 3 days, and I'm going to prove it within a reasonable doubt. If I was in front of the court, they would have to take the evidence and your evidence, and somebody's going to have to come up with the truth, and somebody's going to be lying. It can't be both ways. Either I'm lying or I'm telling the truth. And believe me, I'm not even started on this yet, but we're going on a journey. Just hang on. Let's ride this tornado until the end. Now, I know pride gets in the way of a lot of people. You know, I'm just a Texas cowboy. I don't have a congregation. I'm not in this for money or fame or recognition. Matter of fact, I've held off making this video for quite a while now. But y'all wanted me to go to be instructed in righteousness before I went and make a video. And that's what happens a lot of times. Like Jeremiah 23, a lot of people, they run with they think they got the truth on it, and they run with it. That's why y'all said the prophets run, but he ran with the word, but I didn't send them. They didn't wait on Yahoo. They didn't wait to get the answer. There's some things you got to wait. Now, if you go out there and you're preaching to thousands of people on the internet, whatever, you better make damn sure what you're saying is the actual truth. Because you're going to give account in the day of judgment what you preach and what you believe. I promise you that. Now, I ain't got nothing to gain or lose in this thing except my soul. That's it. And this is the reason why I'm making this video, because I want the truth to be known. Our Messiah. And it also proves one thing else, that the Father was in the flesh. Because if the Messiah was the bridegroom, and he was, he had to be the husband. And if he resurrected all those under the Old Testament, and he did, there was the ones in Revelation, a number that could not be numbered. And then you had your 144,000, the 2-year-old males, which were all virgins, of course. See, a lot of times people try to spiritualize things away when it's not really spiritual. It is spiritual, but you can spiritualize things away out of context. And I do believe things got to be spiritually discerned, but not out of context or from the imagination of your carnal mind. Or that's what's wrong with Christianity today. They spiritualize everything away. They spiritualize the commandments away. They spiritualize the law away. The Sabbaths away. Everything spiritualized away. It's just disappeared. Well, we know that ain't true, don't we? So now, We went to Jonah. Let's go back to Leviticus. Back all the way back up. Go back over this a little bit. And I know you probably got a lot of answers. You probably got a lot of doubts and thinking the way I'm talking. But you got just bear with me a little while. Bear with me. See me through it. The wise man hears the matter before he answers it. So, if you can't spend the time to listen to me to see if I'm on track or not, how you going to know how to combat me? So, what I want you to do, I want you to prove me wrong. What I'm going to teach tonight, I want you to prove me wrong. And if you can prove me wrong, then I'll, through the scriptures and common sense also, and not just some malarkey stuff that's made up out of thin air. Just because of the King James translation, the way it's translated, you got to be careful. You know this King James it's not the original script. It takes the spirit of Yahweh to give you discernment, to know the eras. Did he not say over there, I believe in Timothy or somewhere over there, did he not say that he would teach us the spirit of error and the spirit of truth? Why did he tell us that? Because he knew the lying pen of the scribes and mistranslations and everything would be put in the scriptures. Because the problem is, the Jews didn't believe in the resurrection. One side of them, Pharisees and Sadducees, one side of them didn't believe in the resurrection. And we know that they are the ones that had something to do with the even as they do today. Every time they find a new scriptures or scrolls, they got their hands in translating. That's why the divine name is never translated, no matter what. So, what's going on here? Is it vain to put your trust in man? Well, King James is a man. The translators are men. You say, well, the Bible says they were a holy men of old. Well, I'm going to tell you something. King James was not the holy men of old. And neither was the Jews. Most especially the ones he said beware of, the scribes and the Pharisees, which you don't believe. You put your trust in them, you're gonna be sitting on the bottom of the catfish ponds, eating poo-poo. So anyway, here we go. Let's go to Leviticus again. When it says in verse, we're going to verse 23 again. When it said, we're going to 12. You shall offer that day when you wave the sheave, a lamb without blemish, on the first year of a cooked offering unto Yahweh. Well, we know for a fact when the lamb was offered up. It was offered up at around 3 o'clock. And the bread, and the unleavened bread, and the foot washing and all that stuff took place before the 15th drew on. And you had to have that bread, the unleavened bread, eaten before the sun went down, right? That's the type of the Messiah. Had to be put in that tomb before the sun went down. And believe me, his body was prepared and put in as the sun was going down. So now, then it says, we're going to verse 15. Then you shall count unto you the morrow after the Sabbath, from the day you brought the sheave wave offerings, 7 Sabbaths. See, that proves right there that it can't be the 16th when the sheave offering was brought up, because you couldn't count 7 Sabbaths. Because even according to your word, to what you believe, that the 16th wasn't the Sabbath, but was, I guess you're going to try to say it's the first day of the week, or something like that. But we can't count that as the first day of the week on the Feast of Unleavened Bread. because that was a holy convocation. That didn't have nothing to do with the first day of the week. We'll get down to that here in a little bit. But you brought the sheave wave offering, 7 Sabbaths shall be complete. So they had to count from the Sabbath after the sheave offering was brought in, 7 Sabbaths, because that's proven after the sheave offering was waved, it was at the evening of the 14th for the 15th. Then that was a Sabbath. You count 7 Sabbaths. Then it says, after that, on the morrow after the 7 Sabbaths you shall count. Then you shall count 50 days. And then you shall offer up another offering unto Yahweh. That's proven that that's 99 days there. Because you can't have a second meat offering until after the 7 Sabbaths shall be numbered, then 50 days. It was the same thing. We know that's going to fall on another Sabbath. So that would be the new moon meat offering. Okay. And then we're going to go to verse 20. And the priest shall wave them with the bread of the first fruits for a wave offering unto Yahweh. And you shall proclaim on that same self day that you may be a holy convocation unto you, shall do no work. That's a Sabbath. The 16th not a Sabbath. The 15th is a Sabbath, and you know it is, Mr. Jensen. You know the 14th is not a Sabbath, and you know the 16th is not a Sabbath. You know the 15th, the full moon, is the Sabbath day. And you shall reap the harvest of your land, shall make a clear riddance of it. You shall gather the gleaning of the corn, that's on the 14th, and leave the rest of it to the poor. Then it says, speak to the children of Israel, saying, in the 7th month, our moon, on the first day of the month, you shall have a Sabbath. See, that's on the full moon again. The Sabbath is always on full moon. Should do no servile work. I'm not going to get into this here 10th day stuff, because I know that's mistranslated also. It was on the 8th day, and I can prove it. But that's not my subject today, so I'm going to move on, because I want to, but it's not my subject. But matter of fact, you really want to know, it says the 10th day here, but you get over here in verse 34 of Leviticus, it says, verse of 23, it says, speak to the children of Israel, saying on the 15th day, Sabbath day of that month, you shall have a feast of tabernacles, 7 days. And on the first day shall be a holy convocation. 7 days shall you offer made by fire to Yahweh. See, it's the 8th day. Always is on the Sabbath. But we're not, alright. Now we're going to go to verse, see, I ain't done yet. Hang on a minute. Yeah. Verse 36. 7 days you offer an offering made by fire to Yahweh, and on the 8th day shall be a holy convocation. Shall make an offering. In other words, that's the Sabbath. That's the 8th day, where they got it translated as the 10th day. You can't be both ways. Because that's when it was the solemn assembly, you shall do no servile work. There's no commandment in the Bible says that we are to keep a Sabbath on the 10th day. You don't believe that? Back up and go to let's go back to Leviticus 23, starting from the beginning. Yahweh said unto Moses, speaking to the children of Israel, saying to them concerning the feast of Yahweh, and proclaim them to be holy gatherings. These are my feasts. 6 days shall your work be done. The 7th day shall be the Sabbath, the rest. That's the 8th day. Therein is the Sabbath. There's no 10th day. You can't have a Sabbath on the 10th. I don't care how that King James got it translated. It's wrong. When you scrutinize the scriptures, then you're going to know every atonement was ever done was on the 8th day. And anyway, that's not the subject, like I said. So we're going to move on down the river to the promised land. And I may be going back here in a little bit. I don't know yet. But we're going to go to the Gospels. The first thing I want to do, we're going to go to Matthew 26 and 16. And Matthew 26, 14. Matthew Jensen, the Holy Roller. Jew boy, I call you. I know you're not a Jew, but you got the spirit of Judaism. And I'm not afraid to say it. See, whatever you preach is what comes out of you. You can't hide it. It's wrapped all up in you like a coil snake. But anyway, I'm going to read this. Now, the first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, the disciples came to the Messiah saying, "Where will we prepare to eat the Passover?" Now, how plain is that? You know for 100% fact this is the Passover. And the Messiah was eating this Passover with his disciples. Then we know after he was betrayed by Judas that the Jews said they would not murder him on their Passover because they claimed the first Passover. It was all, you got to read in between the lines on a lot of things, I guess. Then whenever it talks about court, yes, he did betray him on the first Passover, but they didn't kill him on the first Passover. Now we're going to go on down to where he was killed on the second Passover. We're going to read. Now, first I'm going to read this. This is verse Matthew 27:39. And they that passed reviled him, wagging their heads, saying that he said he would destroy this temple and build it back up in 3 days. Representing 3 nights and 3 days, folks. Now we're going to go over here. We're going to read this. It says, so where we at? All right. It says, verse 55, and many women were there, beholding far off, which followed the Messiah from Galilee, ministering to him. I know it's kind of strange that the women were in Galilee, but they say he was crucified in Jerusalem, which is like 100 miles from Galilee. Something's not adding up there. But anyway, let's go on down here to verse Matthew 27:57. When the evening was come, notice what he said. When the evening was come, there came a rich man named Joseph, which was one of the Messiah's disciples. He went to Pilate and begged the body of Yahushua. It's not Yeshua, because Yeshua is the same as Jesus, no different. Matter of fact, if you look up the word Yeshua, it means to bring to ruin, so you better be careful using that name. Just a warning from the Most High. What you do in ignorance, you don't know any better. If the Father's name is Yah, Hua, or Yah, you call Yahweh, the Son's got to come in his Father's name. Yah, it can't be yes. Or Jesus, or Buddha, or Krishna. Anyway, and there was Mary Magdalene and the other, verse 61, sitting over against the tomb. Now the next day that followed the day of preparation. See, that day while he was being crucified was called the preparation day, which was a work day, not a rest day. Now, if you're going to try to say that the 14th was part of a rest day and he was resting, then you're calling the Almighty a liar, because he just called it a work day, preparation day, the same thing that when they brought the harvest in on the 14th in Leviticus. So the preparation day was a work day. Then it says the feast, it says, now the next day that followed the day was the preparation. The chief priests and Pharisees came together and said unto Pilate, saying, Sir, we remember that this deceiver said, while he yet lived, after 3 days I will arise again. And they commanded that the scepter be made sure until the 3rd day. Now notice what he said. We know it was at the end of the 14th on preparation day. He was put in the tomb. That's when the Pharisees and Sadducees said they would not have worked on the Sabbath day. They would have been in the temple on the full moon. So they had to go to who was it? Pilate. Yes, Pilate. And said, so they were saying that right before the full moon, before he's put in the tomb, that 3 nights and 3 days he'd be in that tomb. The deceiver said he'd be in that tomb 3 nights and 3 days, but that was on the evening of the 15th when he was fixing to be put into the tomb. When they said that, they didn't say it prior to that. At 3 o'clock when he's being impaled on the torture stake on the cross, whatever it was, whatever, he was being crucified for sure. A Roman apparatus. Then it says, then Pilate said to him, have a watch, make sure it. And they sealed, and the scepter was sure, sealing the stone. And they were set at watch. They were watching over that tomb at the closing when the sun was going down. That's when they said that deceiver said he would be in the heart of the earth, or in the tomb, his body, not his spirit. We know his spirit. He gave up the ghost when he's being crucified. But his body. This is what we're talking about. He said his body, not his spirit, would be in that tomb for 3 nights and 3 days. Then the resurrection would take place, right? Okay, this is where the cheese gets biting. So we're going to go through the Gospels, then we're going to go all the way. Then it says, when you read chapter 28 of Matthew, we have what I call a remission, or what I call you know how you go to the movies and you watch the movie, you have a remission time, a 10-minute remission where you can go get your popcorn or whatever. Well, there was a remission time, or a time lapse here. That's what it said. This is where when it says, at the end of the Sabbath, as it began to dawn toward the first day of the week, came Mary Magdalene and Mary to the tomb. Now, this is where you get deceived. Most of you people that try to say he rose on the 16th. But what he's saying here, it's actually a twofold thing here. When he said at the end of the Sabbath, it was at the end of the Sabbath. But it was after that Passover was over with, a feast of unleavened bread, that they eat unleavened bread for 7 days. Now, the reason why I wanted to go there, we're going to go to, let's go to Ezekiel. I'm trying to explain things in a childlike way where a 2-year-old can understand it. I don't try to make it complicated, even though it might seem like I am, but I'm not trying to. I only have a 5th grade education or whatever. I went to the 8th grade, but going to school in Arkansas it's like having a 5th grade education according to Texas. But anyway, I am from Texas. I just know I went to school in Texas when I was in the 8th grade. Then went to Arkansas. I dropped back to the 5th grade. Anyway, probably the same way in Tennessee. We're going to Ezekiel 46. And I know y'all familiar with it. But I want to bring up a point here. I'm going to read 46. Now we do know this was the they were keeping, a lot of people might not know this, but when they was keeping this Passover, it says, in 46, it says, verse 21, in the first day of the month, and the 14th day of that month, you shall have the Passover, a feast of 7 days of unleavened bread shall be eaten. And then it tells you how and it says, in the 7th month, and the 15th day of that month, you shall do likewise the feast of 7 days according to Yah. Well, there you go. The Passover lasted 7 days, and on the 15th was the Sabbath. And if you read right before that, that's when they brought the bullocks, the grain offerings, the ephod, the unleavened bread, and all that. Then we'll go to verse 46. And Yahuwah said, the gate of the inner court that looketh toward the east shall be shut for 6 working days, but on the Sabbath it shall be open. And the day of the new moon it shall be open. And the princes enter into the way of the porch, prepare the burnt offerings, and do worship. Likewise, the people of the land shall worship at the door of the gate before Yahuwah in the Sabbaths and the new moons, and the burnt offerings or cooked offerings, the offerings of Yahuwah in the Sabbath day shall be 6 lambs without blemish, rams without blemish, an ephod of a ram, and the day of the new moon it shall be open. Now, what I'm saying here is, when it went into the to keep the Passover, the gates were shut. They couldn't leave out of the temple. So when Mary and all the disciples, as they, like they said, Mary said she was highly favored because she kept the commandments. Well, she didn't come out of the temple on the Sabbath day, or the Feast of Unleavened Bread, until the whole feast was over with, because they were shut behind the gates. They were very strict. Even the Jews were very strict in that law. So, whenever he says at the end of the Sabbath, it was at the end of the Passover, or the end of the Sabbath, at the end of the 7 days of unleavened bread, on the first day of the week is when Mary came to the tomb. Or you could read it like this: at the end of the Passover, as it began to dawn toward the first day of the week. Either way, it's the same thing. Now we're in Matthew. We're going to go to Mark. Boy, so many things I'd like to get into, but I can't right now because that'd be awful. I told Jenny today, I said, I got to be careful not to get off on these rabbit trails, because I can, but I'm trying to be the best coon dog there ever was. You know, you get a good coon dog, he ain't gonna get off that trail until he gets the answer. He gonna get that coon. If he jumps off on a possum or something else, he might get shot. Actually, I had an uncle. I believe he was my uncle. Yeah, he was my, yeah. They used to do coon hunting. He bought a $500 coon dog, and that dog, he went out there a possum. You know what he done to him? He took him right out there and shot him right in the head. He said, he didn't care if he paid $500 for him. He asked for his money back. I don't think he got it, but that's the way it is when it comes to the truth. You got to stay on that trail of that coon until you catch that coon, and don't get sidetracked by other doctrines and other things until you get that one thing 100%. Even if you got to wait a year or 2 years or whatever. That's why the Bible talks about don't be many masters in doctrines, and it's kind of like the old saying, jack of all trades, master of none. Well, you can be jack of all doctrines, but never a master of any of it, because you want to run, you go too fast. You want to slow down. You want to build a congregation. You want to be a holy roller. You want to be looked up to. Sometimes we do it and don't even realize it. Even myself, I had to watch my spirit and my soul. That's why he told Apostle Paul he put a thorn in his flesh. I wonder what that was. Anyway, we'll go to Mark. We're going to read Mark 15, starting with 34. And at the 9th hour, the Messiah cried with a loud voice, saying, Eli, 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 sabachthani. Says, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? And now I'm going to read, and some of them that stood by, when they heard it, said, Behold, he calls for Elias. And one ran and filled the sponge with vinegar. Elias come down and say, Come take him down. The Messiah cried with a loud voice and gave up the spirit. And the veil of the temple rent in two, and the bottom. And then we go to verse 40. And there were also women looking afar off, among whom was Mary Magdalene, Mary, mother of James, Salome, who also, when he was in Galilee, followed him and ministered to him. Many other women which came up with him unto the temple. And now when it was evening was come, because it was the preparation day. That is the day before the Sabbath. Now, what you would have to do to have 3 parts of a day, first of all, you would have to call part of the 14th the Sabbath, and part of another day the Sabbath. And we know a 24-hour day is a Sabbath from evening to evening. It's plain horse sense. So 3 nights and 3 days is 3 24-hour days, which is why they say 3 days and 3 nights. But actually, it was 3 nights and 3 days. Then after the preparation, before the Sabbath, he was not in the tomb yet. Actually, they had 5 hours to prepare this body. Because at 3 o'clock, brought him down, wrapped, man, they can embalm somebody in 5 hours, you know. But they didn't embalm them. They wrapped them up, put all the perfumes and everything on them. They had plenty of time to get him into the tomb before the sun went down. Hell, it could have been 6 hours. I don't know what time the sun goes down in that part of the year, because we know it was in the Passover. If it was in the second Passover, it would have been in May. Or even if it was April, let's say it was, it's still going to be still over there. There's no trees over there. The sun was still shining at dusk dark around 7 or 8 o'clock. But anyway, we're going to read this, and it says, and he came unto Pilate, and he asked for the body of the Messiah. And Pilate marveled that he was already dead, calling unto him the centurion. And when he knew it, he gave up the body to Joseph. He bought fine linen, took down wrapped it in linen, laid him in the scepter, which was hewn in a rock. See, before he was put into the tomb, is when the Pharisees and Sadducees came before the Sabbath started, was saying this deceiver would rise in the third day. And they didn't say that way he was on being crucified. It was afterwards. They knew what 3 nights and 3 days was. They didn't ask the Roman soldiers to guard it for 1 day. After this message here, if you can't see it, you don't want to see it. All right, we're going to go to verse 16:1, Mark. And when the Sabbath was past, Mary Magdalene, they might come into knowing him, and very early in the morning, on the first day of the week, they came to the sepulchre at the rising of the sun. And they said among themselves, who shall roll away the tomb from the door of this sepulchre? Now, the first thing that comes to your mind is you're thinking it's the 16th, and that Mary and them came to the tomb the day after he was in the tomb on the first day of 24 hours. So you have to come up with you have to make a narrative. You have to come up with something to fit your narrative, because the way you're reading the scriptures, not rightly understanding it and dividing it, and searching through the Old Testament and the New Testament, making it correlate together, fit together, you automatically think when Mary came to that tomb, it was the day after he was put in the tomb on the first day. Well, we're going to prove that. I'm going to prove to you that's a lie. See, if you're deceived, you're deceiving your flock too. If your flock's being deceived, they're going to go out and deceive other people because they're trusting you. So here's my story. I'm going to break it down. And I want you, as the leaders, and this goes for all you Seventh-day Adventists, your Sunday-day worshipers, and you 16th day resurrection believers, which is very few of them. Now, notice what he said. They came to the scepter on the rising of the sun. See, that Sabbath they came to was at the end of the Passover. That Sabbath. They came to the end of the Sabbath on the last Sabbath when the Feast of Unleavened Bread was over with. Because they obeyed the commandments of Moses. And Mary was, the Bible says she was expedient to keep the commandments. She was chosen because she kept the commandments. She wouldn't have left out of that temple. Why do you think when he said they came running to the tomb, they were running out of the temple? Why can't y'all see this? All right, we're going to keep reading. And when they looked, they saw the stone rolled away, for it was very great. Entered to the scepter, they saw a young man sitting there at the right side, clothed in a long white garment. And when they said to him, be not afraid, whom you seek, the Messiah of Nazareth, which was crucified. He is risen, but he is not here. Behold, the place where they lay him. But go tell your disciples and Peter, he goes before you in Galilee, you shall find him. Where was he at? Did the Messiah stay in Jerusalem? If that actually was where he was crucified, which I'm in doubt of that too. But we're not going to get into that one. Like I said, that's another rabbit trail. I'm going to stay on this one coon. We'll get on that. After I catch this coon, we'll catch another coon. Because that's going to be a great big coon when I get to that one. But anyway. Notice what it did say and what it didn't say. First of it said that he was not in the tomb. And the angel said he's not there. He's already risen. He's been risen. And we're going to find out why. Now, what we want to do is, we're going to back up. Actually, I ain't going to back up to it. I'm just going to quote it. And Daniel, he said, in the midst of the week, the daily sacrifice shall cease. Right? If you look at the word midst, it means middle. In the middle of the week, what week will the daily sacrifice end? In the middle of Passover, of course, common sense. Common horse sense. What other week would he be talking about besides a biblical Passover week? So in the middle of that week is when he resurrected. Now, you Seventh-day Adventist people say he died in the middle of the week when he actually resurrected in the middle of the week, because he died on the first day of the week of Passover on a full moon. We all know this. You cannot calculate the death, burial, and resurrection with a Gregorian calendar. It's impossible. Now, I'm going to tell you Seventh-day Adventists the same thing I'll tell you the Sunday day goers, the same thing. You can't calculate time by a Gregorian calendar. You think that Gregorian calendar was back in the time of Genesis? You think Abraham would use a Gregorian calendar? You think the prophets used a Gregorian calendar? Do you actually believe that? You think they used a Roman Catholic whore church calendar to calculate time when we know she is the one that come to change time, seasons, and laws with the Jews. The Jews and the Catholics are all the same, wrapped up in one big bundle. You can put them in a bag, check them up. They're all the same ones. Actually, the Jerusalem and the Jews are the beast of Babylon in Revelation, and the whore church is the one that rides her back. The whore church, the Catholic church, riding the beast, which is the Jew religion. But anyway, like I said, we ain't going there right now. Now we're going to go, now we're going to go to Luke. I'm going to throw all the Gospels on this because there may be something I don't want to miss. We're going to go, we're going to go read Luke 45. 23 and 45. And the sun was darkened, and the veil of the temple was rent into. I guess, in the midst. That means in the middle. It's the same like Daniel said, in the midst of the week. Same word. Anyway, it says, verse 49, and all his acquaintance and the women that followed him from Galilee stood afar off, beholding these things. And when this man went unto Pilate and begged the body of the Messiah, verse 52, he took down and wrapped him in linen and laid it in a scepter, a hewn stone wherein never a man before was laid. And that day was the preparation day, and the Sabbath day drew on. See, the Sabbath didn't come. That would be when the priest would bring the wave offering. Right before the Sabbath came in. They didn't bring it on the 16th. On a non-work day. On a work day. The wave offering was brought in. The wave offering was brought on a work day before the Sabbath started. He wouldn't have waved it on the 16th, because Messiah was in the tomb on the 15th. He became our unleavened bread on the 15th when he put into the tomb. He became the death, the burial, and the resurrection. And by the way, death, burial, resurrection, 3 nights and 3 days. So he rose in the middle of the week. In the middle of the week, in the middle of the reason why he rose in the middle of the week. Of course, that wouldn't be a Sabbath day. He was put in the tomb on the Sabbath. That's one night and one day. Then another night and one day. Then another night and a day. At evening, he rose from the tomb in the middle of the week. That's Daniel said. The daily sacrifice. We never have. That's why we don't offer up sacrifice for sins anymore. No wonder the Jews want to screw up the actual meaning of the resurrection, because they don't believe in it. And then we're going to go verse 56, and they returned, prepared spices, ointments, and rested on the Sabbath day according to the commandment. What is the commandment? They go into the temple, shut the gate for 6 days. Then, after that's over with, the Feast of Unleavened Bread is over with, and the Sabbath's over with, that's when they're going to come to that tomb. Now, we are really going to get down. We're going to go to St. John. Because let's go to St. John. We'll start, verse 23, 1923. And the soldiers, when they had crucified the Messiah, took his garments and made 4 parts, and also his coat. And the coat was without seam, woven from the top throughout. They cast lots, that the scriptures might be fulfilled. And then we're going to go down to verse 31. And the Jews, therefore, because it was the preparation day, preparation that the body should not remain upon the cross on the Sabbath day. In other words, the Sabbath day was the full moon. Then we're going down here. We're going to verse 38. Joseph of Arimathea, being a disciple, the fear of the Jews. Notice he said the fear of the Jews. He didn't say the fear of the Romans. What do you think about that? That he might take the body of the Messiah, and Pilate gave him leave. Seemed like he got more compassion from Pilate than he did the Jews. He came therefore and took the body of the Messiah. There came Nicodemus, which at the first came to the Messiah by night, and brought a mixture of myrrh and aloes, about 100 pounds of weight, and took the body of the Messiah and wound it in linen clothes, spices, as the manner of the Hebrews do bury. It says Jews, but I say Hebrews. And in the place where they was crucified, there was in the garden a new scepter where never no man lay. They laid the Messiah therefore because of the Hebrews' preparation day, for the scepter was near at hand. In other words, the Sabbath was drawing in. Now we're going to go to verse 20, chapter 20, verse 1. The first day of the week cometh Mary Magdalene early, when it was yet dark, unto the scepter. He seeth the stone rolled away on the scepter. Then she runneth and cometh Simon Peter and the Messiah, and whom the Messiah had loved. Then we're going to go to verse it says, and then Mary stood without the scepter, weeping, as she wept, stooped down and looked into the scepter, and seeth two angels in the white sitting at the head of the other, and the feet where the body of the Messiah had lain. And they say unto her, Woman, why weepest thou? She said unto them, Because they have taken my Savior, and I know not where they had laid him. And when she had thus said, he turned back and saw Messiah standing, and knew not that it was him. Now I'm going to go to verse 18. And I'm going to back up when it says right here, when it says the Messiah was standing and knew not it was Messiah. I actually believe it was the angels, because when you read Matthew and Mark, it does say the angels. It says the angels. You got to pick or choose which one's right or whatever. But it says in the Gospels of Matthew that the angel said that you will find him in Galilee. He's already risen. He's already gone. So you just got, that's what I'm saying. The King James got, you never know from one point to the next point, not one book to the next book. You got to really rightly divide the word of truth. So personally, I believe it was the angel of Yah that was talking to Mary. That's my opinion on that one. But anyway, we're going to go to verse 18. Mary Magdalene came, told the disciples that he had seen the Master, and that he had spoken these things to her. Then the same day at evening, being the first day of the week, when the doors were shut. I'm asking you, when was the door shut according to the law and the commandments? The door was shut when the Passover was over with. They stayed in the temple. You know, I read it in Ezekiel. Said 6 days the gates would be locked until the Sabbath was up, until the Passover was over with, and then they'd open the gates. And this is exactly when Mary, when she came to that tomb on the first day of the week, at evening, when the doors were shut, where the disciples were assembled. Where were they assembled? In the temple. For the fear of the Jews, came the Messiah, stood in the midst of them, said, peace be unto you. Then you're going to go to prove this with the end of the Passover. Another thing says, we'll go to verse 26. And after 8 days again, his disciples were within, Thomas and them, and came to the Messiah, and the doors were shut again in the midst thereof. And after these things, verse 21, he showed himself to his disciples on the Sea of Tiberias. On this wise showed himself. And thing is, they kept the Sabbath every 8th day, because I'm going to tell you something, our Father doesn't count the way we count. He counts from Sabbath to Sabbath. Just like, for example, Sunday to Sunday, it'd be 8 days. Saturday to Saturday, it'd be 8 days. That's how he counts time. That's why they get all messed up over there in Joshua over there when he said he marched around the Jericho on the 7th day. They actually think it was a Sabbath day when it was not a Sabbath day. It was actually the 6th day. But since our Father counts from Sabbath to Sabbath, it was on a work day. See, the first day was the Sabbath when it's marching, where they kept the Passover there. Then they marched around Jericho for 6 days. And then on the 8th day was the after the 7th day, he said they marched on the 7th day, but that was the 7th day from the first Passover. I mean, from the first Sabbath. So you count that Sabbath, and you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 7 days from that first. That's 7 days from that first Sabbath. But what comes after that? They marched around and marched around Jericho 6 times on the what? 7th day. There's what actually Sabbath, 6 days of work. Then what follows that after that? The 8th day of Sabbath again. But anyway, now we went there. And I'm just going to close this up a little bit because I really don't. Take your glasses off. Put my hat on. This hat on that most people hate in this world. And it's starting to burn the American flag too. They hate it too, don't they? Well, American flag ain't much different than the rebel flag. They both got, the original American flag had 13 stars on it in a circle, representing the salt covenant of Yah in the Bible, where Israel camped around, or when they camped in a circle around the tabernacle, or around the Ark of the Covenant. See, this right here is the Ark of the Covenant. You put it in a circle, they camped in a circle around that. But this X over here represents the cross arms of Jacob. When he was blessing his 2 sons, the arms went like that. There you go. That's the cross arms of Jacob. And that's the Ark of the Covenant. In the middle, actually became the Messiah. Yahuwah, the Father in the flesh. It had to be. It couldn't be no other way. You don't have 2 deities. You can go ahead and believe it if you want to, but you're going to fall by the wayside pretty soon, I guarantee you. Because the day of judgment is right around the corner. You better get you. One thing I will say, Brother Arnold's got it right. It's the oneness. Even though he's been bastardized for it. You got to remember something. Arnold was sent to you. You wasn't sent to him. And that's what people don't understand. I don't agree with everything he says, but he got that part right. And I hold his arms up strong on that one. And next thing is, it's just exactly the way it is, folks. The Messiah was crucified on the 14th on a work day. The harvest was brought in. The Messiah went in the spirit world. He went into the kingdom of heaven. And what the Bible says, and one day in heaven is what? 1,000 years. That's where he took the 144,000 Old Testament saints, took them into heaven. His spirit, and they rested with him as his body rested on the tomb on the first day. That was first. That represented 1,000 years. And then the second day, he was in that tomb. On the second day, that's when they got ready to make war, battle plans, get ready to come to this earth. 2,000 years. Now you got 3,000 years. And you say, well, why 3,000 years? It looks like it ain't been 3,000 years. Well, that's right. It ain't, has it? But we don't know how much time they got covered up through the Dark Ages. Remember the Dark Ages? Don't you know they had more? Well, I know you don't know it, but there was a lost time during the Dark Ages. Could be 500 years, could be 800 years, could be 1,000 years. I don't know. But I can guarantee you there's a lot of time been lost. Because the Bible said he'd come changing times, laws, and seasons. That's exactly what he does, the enemy. But anyway, not getting on that, Messiah was put in that tomb at the closing of the 14th on the 15th. The unleavened bread, he became our unleavened bread. He was put in the tomb and 3 nights and 3 days later, as it says, Jonah was in the whale's belly for 3 nights and 3 days. Whether it was a real whale or a submarine, I don't know. Who knows for sure? But I'm going to tell you one thing for sure. He was in. The Bible said it was 3 nights and 3 days. 3 actual nights. Now you know if you go talk to somebody, you say, "Well, when's the Sabbath start?" What about you, Matthew Jensen? What about all you other ones out there? When you go ask, if they come to you and ask you when the day starts, you're gonna say, "Oh, when's the Sabbath start?" You say, "Well, no, it's part of a day and part of another day. It's not really 24 hours." So you're a hypocrite. You can't have it both ways. See, because you better repent and turn back, because I've gave you enough knowledge, enough understanding to know without a doubt, or at least a reasonable doubt, that he was crucified on the 14th, put in a tomb, and 3 nights, 3 days in the middle of the Passover, he was resurrected. That's why when Mary and them came to the tomb, he was already resurrected 3 days prior. He wasn't in the tomb. The angels rolled the stone away. He wasn't even in there. Because he already went to Galilee. The angel said he was in Galilee. You'll find him there. Now he was in his spirit body. He could appear anytime he wanted to. I'm sure any place he wanted to, if he wanted to. I'm not saying that's not possible. But I am going to say, for a fact, when Mary and them came to the tomb and brought spices, because they actually thought, they didn't actually believe he was going to be resurrected, apparently. And that's why they was bringing the spices and all that. They was going to put, because they know after 7 days the body's going to stink. See, they wouldn't have brought spices and stuff again if it was just a following day, because the body wouldn't have stunk in 1 day, but in 7 days it would have. That's why they brought the spices at the end of the Passover to re-anoint his body. Not re-anoint it, but anoint it. Joseph had already anointed his body and wrapped it the first time. Mary and them had nothing to do with that. So you can't have Mary coming at the end of the Passover and on the 16th, and both of them correlate. She didn't come to the tomb twice. He didn't resurrect twice. So you got to make up your mind which one you're going to believe. If you want to be ignorant and stupid, keep on being that way. And there's a whole lot of other things a lot of people are believing it's way false doctrine. I'm going to say it like this. There's no way possible that the crescent moon is a new moon. That's impossible. The dark moon is the new moon. For example, if I can find me something right here, I'll use this piece of paper. See that paper? That's a new piece of paper right there. Brand new on. See it? All right. Now I'm going to get this here marker. I'll put a mark on that. That paper ain't new no more. That's a crescent moon right there. It's not new no more. But before I put that on there, was a new. That was a new moon. That was the dark moon. Then you count 6 days from that crescent moon. I mean, from that new moon, 6 days, you're going to have a half moon. Another Sabbath. Then you go from there to the full moon, a Sabbath. Then back to the half moon of Sabbath. Then back to the new moon. That's why the Bible plainly says, from one new moon to the next new moon, you shall enjoy your Sabbath in between. Now, how in the hell you going to start your count off from the new moon and skip what you call the new moon, the crescent moon, and then skip the dark moon? Then you end up with extra days and stuff and got all this confusion. No wonder the Seventh-day Adventists don't believe none of your lunar Sabbaths, because you're not teaching it right. Because at least they got enough sense to know it's every seventh day. Don't change. The Bible plainly said every seventh day the Sabbath. It is. When you keep the formula right, it is every seventh day. Don't never change. There ain't no such thing as a double new moon. There ain't none. I've been keeping it for 30 years and I ain't never seen one. Just because that crescent moon you might not see that crescent moon till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning or midday or whatever, depending on the time of the year. But it's still from one new moon to the next new moon. If you go from sliver to sliver, you're going to be a day off both ways. You're going to be off everything. The whole timeline's off. Full moon's off. Half moon's off. When you get it perfect, be ye therefore perfect as your Father in heaven is perfect. He wants us to get it right. Because Satan don't want you on the timeline. You got to swallow your pride, man. The dark moon. See, when you see that crescent moon, that's telling you it's time to go to work next day. That's exactly what David and all them was talking about. And when the new moon is passed, well, they knew when that new moon was passed because they seen the crescent moon. Now it's time to go to work next day, or whatever they did back then. So the crescent moon tells you to go to work, and the last crescent tells you it's time to stop work because the new moon's coming in, the dark moon. It's that simple. It's that simple. But you got a congregation built. You're just like the churches. You got your foundation built, and you don't want to tear down your foundation because you got that pride like Satan. You don't want to go back and tell your people that you was wrong. You don't have to tell them that I told you. I don't really care. I just want the truth known. You can leave me completely out of the equation. I don't want no brownie points for it. I could care less. I got off on that because we know the Messiah was crucified on a full moon. He wasn't crucified on a plump moon or a moon that wasn't a full moon. So if he was crucified on a full moon on 15th, we know that the dark moon had to be a Sabbath day. And the Bible tells you that the dark moon is a Sabbath day. But anyway, I'm fixing to stop this video right now. The most important thing is it's not about who's right, who's wrong, it's what is right. It's about we can get about our Father's business and start doing what He says to do. And I got news for you, all you Sabbath day people out there. No matter what, see, you want to keep it, whatever. The Bible tells you that Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and all the prophets, Joshua, Abraham, when they kept the Sabbath, they also had an altar called the Covenant of Salt altar. And whether you believe it or not, they built an altar, and I can prove to you it was a 12-stone altar, because it tells you in Exodus, the last 5 verses, do not build me an altar with steps going up to it, or a pulpit. Satan was cast into the pit, pulpit. His prophets are preaching in the pit, pulpits. Yes, that's exactly right. Just like he says over there in Isaiah, when he's going to destroy the earth, all those eating swine flesh and the mouse. You stupid idiots think it's talking about eating pig and eating a mouse, and it's ain't got nothing to do with that. You better, and hide behind the tree. That's the churches, the cross, the false doctrine, the Catholic churches, the Catholic Church is the swine doctrine, the swine church, with her false doctrines, and the mouse is the sneaky little bastards that hiding, that control, is running the Congress and the Hollywood. All the Jews, they're the mouse. Did you know? You ever wonder why Disneyland is a Jew on? That guy's a Jew, and his slogan is the mouse, Mickey Mouse. You just think you come out of her, my people. You ain't come out yet. You ain't come out yet. All right, this is all I'm going to say about this tonight. Praise Yahuwah, the name above every name. Yahweh's name is close, but it ain't close enough. I am who I am. I am who I weigh. I am who I am. Yahuwah. See, the W, it's not no W in the Hebrew. The W came from the 2 U's converted into a W. That's why you say double U, because it's actually 2 U's. So Satan uses the W to get you off the sound of his name. Yahuwah. Yahuuah. You say, what does it matter? Well, it matters a lot. Because vibration makes sound, and sound is the vibration of the angels that's going to hear that sound, the true sound of his name. So there's no W, there's no Y in it. And of course he winks at our ignorance. I winked at our ignorance when I was in the J name. I've seen miracles in the J name. I've seen miracles in the Yahweh name. That doesn't mean that you got it right. He honors our faith in him no matter what name we call him. So, there you go. That's why we don't walk by sight. Walk by the truth. It takes time. It takes time to grow into the knowledge of the truth. It don't happen overnight. I was hoping I'm giving you a jump start. That's all I'm trying to do. You want to know who the 12 tribes of Israel are? You're looking at it right there. There they are. If you don't believe that, then you're a hypocrite. Because there was the 12 stones of Israel. We know that the Messiah became the 13th, the 13th star, because the 12 apostles, he was the 13th warrior. He was the salvation creator who came in the flesh. That's the Son. Anyway, you can hang on to your lies as long as you want to. Keep on. Keep on keeping on. But someday, you're going to run into that big Mack truck. And it's going to bust you wide open. Whether it be on this side or that side. So you best, do a little fasting. A little listening. A whole lot of listening. And a whole lot more obeying. Hear, O Israel, Yah is one. His name is one. He don't have two names, don't have three names, don't have 100 names. He has one name. That's it. One power, one authority, one name. And the stone that was rejected, it's not his name like everybody thinks. It was a bloodline that was rejected. Because there's only one shepherd stone in the Bible, and that's Joseph Ephraim. He's the shepherd stone that was rejected. So that stone in the book of Acts, he said that the builders rejected. He wasn't talking about the name of the J name or any other name. He was talking about the bloodline of Joseph. Or Joseph. Josephine. So that's why the Jews had it. They hated him because he didn't come through the bloodline of Judah, like 99% of you believe. Well, you better get on the wagon or get off the wagon. Quit preaching at all, because if you're preaching a vain lie, what the hell is it worth? Is it worth your everlasting soul? Like I said, if I'm not preaching the everlasting truth 100%, and I'm not sure about something, I'm not going to preach it. And I'll tell you when it's my opinion or not my opinion, but when I know it, without a doubt, I'm not backing off. I'm not a crawfish. I'm a bulldozer. And I'll push everything out of the way that gets in the way. My last name's Coward, but I promise you, I'm not a coward. It might be my name. I don't know why he gave me that name, but I got it. I know where it come from. Come from the borderline Scottish Irish. Cow herd. I used to own cows, but somebody stole all my damn cows. I guess like it says in Ezekiel 38 and 39, he said they're coming into your land and take your cattle, your jobs, your silver, your gold. What's happening to America and Great Britain, folks, if we're not the Israelites? The Bible said they're coming into your land like a cloud in Ezekiel 38, 39. Come into your land like a cloud to take your cattle, your jobs, everything. They're trying to take your Social Security that you put your trust in. Hell, most people that didn't have Social Security, they might serve the Almighty, but my Father will take care of me no matter what. Whether I get Social Security or I don't get it. I know it belongs to us. We work for it. But hell, man, they're still stealing from us. We should be able to get it all at one time. We worked our lifetime for it. Why can't I get it all at one time? Because they want you to die before you get it. So somebody's stealing from you. Just like the Bible says, your gold and silver, they're going to take it all. They're taking it. Just like the Catholic Church. Pretend like they love you, but behind your back, they're stabbing you and they hate your guts. They're living off your dime. Except they got 300 million people's dimes that they're living off of. You better go find out who they are. You better go find out who's running your government. Who's running Hollywood. Go check their bloodline out. You Jew lovers. Go check it out and see who's controlling you. Who's got your taxes and who's running this world. The Illuminatis. The Rothschilds. Well, let them have their day. Let them have their day. The Bible says over there in Isaiah 66 that there come a day there will be no more Canaanites in the house of Israel. Hell, you don't even know who the house of Israel is. What is a house? 12 tribes. You better go read Genesis 38 and 1. Judah bloodline got sold into the Canaanite bloodline. The bad figs of Judah that Jeremiah talked about. We're not talking about the good figs of Judah. There are good figs. But the ones that's running our world is the bad figs. With some of the Israelites also. The ones Yah said would become traitors and treasonous in the last days. Turn their back on their own people. They'd rather have foreigners over here They rather give them free housing, free hotels, free. Well, you don't know that's in the Bible. You better go read Ezekiel 39. But it's going to all end. Ezekiel 38, 39, Isaiah 66, and Zechariah 14 is the same as Revelation chapter 19. But you're too dumb to put the dots together. Because it takes the Spirit of the Most High to lead you and guide you into all truth. But you reject one truth, then y'all's not going to reveal another truth. You're just going to fall into more error, because once you reject one truth, he's going to lead you. You're going to be led into error because y'all's not going to reveal the truth to you. You can't reject no truth. You can't reject that the Anglo-Saxons are the 12 tribes of Israel when you got ample proof. You can't sit there and say the Jews make up 12 tribes of Israel when they're only one tribe. Supposedly, Judah, one tribe that went captive by the Babylonians. We know the 10 northern tribes went into captivity by the Assyrians. Where in the hell are they? The Bible said they went north. Well, you better go look on your map and see where north is 1,000 miles from Palestine, or 2,000 miles. Where is it at? Well, I'm not going to tell you if you're not smart enough to go look and see on your map. You don't care anyway. Well, anyway, I had to talk about this a little bit. So I'm going to end this video with a prayer. Father Yahuwah, open the eyes of the blind. Take the hat off to pray. Because you said Israel takes his hat off to pray. The Jews put a hat on to pray. Apostle Paul said man not to cover his head when he prays. And a woman is to cover her head when she prays. That's another thing we got a problem with. Leadership. Women want to be the head. The men want the woman to. There's a lot of women out there want a man to be their head, but the man ain't got. He's too effeminate. He ain't got no backbone. He'd rather for his wife to tell him when he can shit, when he can sit up, and when he can whatever. Let me tell you something. Listen to this real good there, men of Israel. If you got a check, you're working, you're making money, don't go give your wife all your money. Don't give her all your money. Give her what she needs for her bills and whatever. Be responsible. But you're supposed to keep that some money in your ass pocket. You're supposed to be in control of the pocketbook. Anyway, hell, I learned that a long time ago by a pastor way back in the days of the Holy Rollers, I call them. I've been on a journey. I'm learning. I'm coming out of her. Hopefully, I don't know how much longer I got in this world. I'm 60, fixing to be 62. I think I'm going to live to be about 92. That's what I expect. I'll probably outlive my wife over there. She's younger than me, but she thinks she might outlive me, but I probably just go together. I don't know. It's what she wants. That's up to y'all on that one. I guess she's my wife. I don't know what she is. She seems to be. She listens to me pretty good. I'm not the best person in the world to live around anyway. I got to deal with God whipping my ass 24 hours a day and keeping me straight. While he's keeping me straight, I'm trying to keep. I ain't got time to keep her straight. She got to keep herself straight. But anyway, I asked the Father Yahuwah to set the captive free, break every bond, every lie, every deception. May Yahuwah, the Father, reclaim his children back to the kingdom. And all the outsiders, y'all's not concerned with right now. He's concerned about his children, his sheep of his pasture. They say that's what's wrong with most of you people. You're dumb shepherds. You think all races come from Adam and Eve. That's where you're ignorant and dumb. Noah had 3 sons, and all 3 sons of his 3 sons were white. You know, in the Bible, it talks about, you know, the blacks try to say, twist scripture out. The Bible says plainly, that Messiah's head was white. His head and his hair was white. It has nothing to do with the texture of his hair or any of that stuff that they tried to say. He said his hair and his head was white as snow, just like my head. His hair is white, and my face, my whole head is white. See, Satan twisted the scriptures they twist it to their own destruction. Make something say something it ain't saying. Even though it may not even be talking about color at all. I don't know. But it seems like it is. But either way, you better be white, pure snow inside as much as you are on the outside before you enter the kingdom of heaven. Praise God. Well, I end this on that note. Hallelujah.
Yeah.